In lifespanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Fallacara, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are.
Upgrade Labs is creating a future where you go to the doctor when you get in a car accident. You go to the doctor when something is really seriously wrong, but you don't go to the doctor to manage your health. That's your job. And you have a team of people and a team of technology that just tells you what to do. It's all personalized. It's all AI driven. And we have all the technology that works way better than what we used to just guess would work. Right?
And you have the tool.
You have the tools.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
You have the data too. So if you're doing what's supposed to work, like when I worked out 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week for 18 months straight, I'm like, that ought to be enough because if I work out more, then I'll lose weight. And well, it turns out that was a false assumption and I never lost weight. I still weighed 300 pounds after that time. And I just felt, man, maybe I should eat less lettuce. Like I'm starving all the time. I'm overtraining. Well, it doesn't matter if you believe something works. If the numbers don't change, then it's not working, and we're going to adjust your protocol until you get the results you want. And it's just the least possible work you could ever do to have the energy you want, to have the age you want, to have the body you want, the mind you want. It's all tunable these days, and it didn't used to be.
Yeah, it's true. We're getting there. You know that Peter Diamandis is coming up with these Fountain Labs.
Fountain Labs. Yeah, Peter, I've been a member of Peter's group for 10 plus years. Yeah. And there's a very medical side to that. Yeah. Where it's meaningfully expensive. What I'm talking about is technology that supports everyone everywhere with the right decision making.
I love that.
Right. And then when there's an Upgrade Labs in your neighborhood, you go in and we've got all the technology for you. And if there isn't one, well, what can you do with the budget and time you have? See, everything that we do to improve ourselves, there's three things we're managing. One is how much does it cost with dollars? Another one is how much does it cost with time? And the other one is how much does it cost with pain or struggle? Oh. So what we want is stuff that doesn't cost very much money, stuff that takes almost no time, and stuff that doesn't suck to do. And when we get you those three things at Upgrade Labs, what you end up with is saying, well, I'm getting going in my career. I have exactly $100 a month to spend on maintaining and improving my health and my performance. So how am I going to spend it? Probably not going to the doctor's office to spend $100 to get a permission slip to get a lab test. It's just not how it works, right? And maybe you're going to say, I'm not going to join an Upgrade Labs in my neighborhood yet. It's a goal. But what I am going to do is I'm going to allocate that $100 towards the things that don't cost very much, that give me the biggest benefit. And our technology will guide you to do that. So, okay, what's the most cost-effective supplement that's going to get you the most of your goals met in the least amount of time? Here's exactly what to take. Or maybe you're like me. I'm willing to spend very large amounts of money to reverse my age. I just got a recent test back, and there's something called extrinsic age. This is the effect of your environment and your lifestyle on your age. 19.36 years younger than my current biological age. That's the effect of just making the right choices. And yes, my choices are powered by AI, and they're powered by 25 years of learning all the stuff. My bet is that unless it's someone like you, you're going to listen to 1,200 episodes where I've interviewed the top longevity experts out there, read 8 of my books and 3,000 blog posts, and then follow 10,000 social media posts. If you just do that, which is about a 2-year college degree worth of material, then you'll know what to do. Or you can log into the tech that we're developing, and then we'll just tell you what to do. And it's not going to be the same as for your friend or for your wife. It's not going to be, here's what everyone does. I've tried for years to make like a set of instructions or a blueprint or something that is just going to work for everyone. It's too personalized.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It's why I've never published my protocol, like what I do personally. I know exactly what's going to happen if people do what I do. They're probably going to get disaster pants, right? Because unless you are a 6'4" person with similar genetics, who has a history of autoimmunity and toxic mold exposure and obesity, who is now at 6% body fat, living my lifestyle, why would you want to take my supplements? It's ridiculous. Like I can tell you, for instance, my body requires something like 40 times more biotin, one of the B vitamins, than the average person. If you took my dose, it would probably break something in you, right? But if I don't take that dose, so what's the answer? It's not to follow one set of instructions. It's to say, yes, I'm a biohacker. Yes, I have a personal stack that I make. And that's what works for me. And I know it works, not because I believe it works, not because I joined, a vegan cult. I was a vegan for a while until I realized it was breaking my health. And it's not because I joined a carnivore cult. I did carnivore before it had the name carnivore and gave myself an egg allergy with a leaky gut, right? You can do too much of any good thing, correct, right? So what's going to work is what's going to work for you. And only your data and how you feel every day will tell you that. And
is it empirical when you do that? Like you have to test before, or now because of AI, you can actually gather information and get the right track right away?
Well, we are working on integrating all of the data from your lifestyle, including all your wearables and scales, as well as the diagnostic technologies from Upgrade Labs. When people can open and Upgrade Labs in their own neighborhood, you just go to ownanupgradelabs.com and you can become the owner of a biohacking facility, right? Or whatever data you have. And not everyone's going to spend money on data. Like that's a luxury, right? You could have no wearables. You could have no lab tests. You could say, here's how I'm feeling. Here's how I look. Here's how I want to feel. Here's how I want to look. And we'll tell you what to do given whatever information there is. And that's a new innovation in the world of biohacking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think that the goal of people on this planet is really to live longer or to live better?
Well,
or both?
There are some people who call themselves longevity doctors. They're not. Yes. And they'll walk around and say, well, there's no way we're going to extend human lifespan. So all you can do is extend your health span. In fact, there's a guy out there, Peter Attia. In his books, he says, we're not going to extend human life. So you should take statins and you should overtrain. Yeah, I was really disappointed because there are people out there who say, we can't do this. I've been in the field of longevity for 25 years. I started running a longevity nonprofit in Palo Alto, California by Stanford University in the late 90s. And I learned the techniques of longevity from people in their 80s who had more energy and more vibrancy than I did in my 20s. And I watched people get younger. And we brought in the leaders in the field from 2 generations ago of longevity. And that's how I became a biohacker. The problem was, back then, no one believed that you could even control your health, much less that you could extend your life. And now there's, I don't want to name a hard number because I don't think anyone can, but we'll say probably $50 billion right now has been invested or is being invested in longevity. Cool. Now, you could say, well, how do you get that number? Well, I talked to a lot of different billion-dollar companies out there. I've explored launching a longevity venture fund. And even the market size for the biohacking industry that I started with an idea, what if we made longevity cool for everyone? Because the benefits that happen when you're 60 and you try to do some longevity stuff. If you do that when you're 20, you actually end up becoming amazingly powerful. You don't lose your fertility. You don't lose your happiness. You're not dealing with the anxiety and the depression and a sense of hopelessness. And you're like, man, I've got the power to build my relationships, to build my career, to make my mark in the world. No one told me that when I was 19, but man, I wish they had. So all of my blog posts from the very first, when I started blogging about biohacking, that first blog post announcing what is biohacking, they're just written for me when I was 19. If someone had just told me, it would have saved me $1 million. And when I wrote my longevity book in 2018 called Superhuman, I went through all of the data, all the studies showing that you can extend mammal lifespan, right? And there are dozens and dozens in it. And I built a framework for longevity. And I said, look, I have spent $2 million on reversing my aging. And I spent $2 million over a 20-year time span. That's still an enormous amount of money. But you don't have to spend $2 million a year like Brian Johnson. I just had him on my podcast. Brian's cool. And
Yeah.
he's got his, his perspectives on it. I haven't measured the number of doctors I've worked with on my team, but it's a lot over the years because you find someone who does this, someone who does that. What I ended up with is, number one, everything you do has to be personalized.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, if you spend 8 hours a day extending your life, you better extend your life by at least 25% because you just burned 25% of your life trying to extend your life. That's a really expensive bet. So for me, I want to spend less than an hour a day. My current workout stack, it's very aggressive. I'm spending 20 minutes a week on exercise.
That's very aggressive. Yes.
Now, I'm using Upgrade Labs. I'm using our technologies, but I want to be really clear. Most people heard me say 20 minutes a day. I want you to hear me right now. 20 minutes a week. And I didn't wake up and do anything crazy this morning, but these are my abs. And
nice.
I'm a former 300-pound guy. There's stretch marks right here, right?
Shredded,
and
man.
You can see the leanness that's here.
Yeah.
Look, what the heck? Right.
20 minutes
a week.
A week.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to suck. And you don't have to spend 6 hours a day on doing every possible thing. What you want to do is...
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Do you need any peptides to achieve that?
No, there's no. Well, right now, I achieve this without peptides, but now I am on MK 677. I just started it about 3 weeks ago, just to increase growth hormone before bed. And I want to be really clear too. Back when I started the biohacking movement, within a year or two of that, I had a growth hormone test. My body didn't make any growth hormone. Medically, I had a 0 growth hormone level. And I went on growth hormone for several years because it was actually just medically useful because my body was just not working well, living in toxic mold for a long time with all the health history I have. And after I went on all the biohacking protocols, I went off of growth hormone after several years, and now I make normal levels of growth hormone again, right? And you look at rate of
at the age of you shouldn't do it. Actually, that's the beauty of it. Most men after 45, they don't produce that much. Yeah.
So I'm making growth hormone, and a lot of people are confused about testosterone.
Correct.
The evidence is very clear. If your testosterone levels are low at any age, get them back up by any means necessary. So you will live longer and you will feel better and you will care about making a mark in the world. So when I was 26, I'd lost probably 40 of the 100 pounds I had to lose. I went to one of the first generation of longevity doctors who you really couldn't find someone who would talk about aging when you go back 20, 25 years. There's a guy in the Bay Area. And I sent my parents to him. I said, well, maybe I'll go too, because my health is not working. My career is going off. It is growing dramatically, and I feel like crap all the time. So I went in and he drew my labs, and he called me and said, Dave, your testosterone is lower than your mom's. So environmental toxins, sleep disruption, eating the wrong diet, even if you think it's healthy, and being obese, or in my case, having exposure to synthetic estrogen, not made by humans, but made by toxic mold. Some of the mold toxins are 1,000 times more estrogenic than human estrogen. Once you build up all that white fat, it makes estrogen for you. So I went on testosterone. I've been very public about that. Medically normal levels of healthy testosterone for a 28 or 30-year-old is my goal. I like to keep it around 900 to 1,000. And I've been taking it all but 3 years for the past 24 years. And the 3 years I didn't take it, I was testing the limits of the bulletproof diet to raise testosterone. So I went off of it for periods of time in there. And what I found was if I did everything perfectly, which means going to sleep on time, quality sleep, eating a lot of egg yolks and red meat and butter and saturated fats, and just did everything right, I could get my levels up to 700. Problem is, like most people, I'm not going to do everything right because I speak on main stages on longevity and biohacking around the world, which means I'm on airplanes a lot, which means I'm getting all those toxins, the circadian disruption, all that stuff happens, right? And that's why your job is not to spend all of your time and energy being perfect. Your job is to build resilience so you can do the things in your life that you want without it damaging your health or making you feel like crap. So I'm not willing to give up living in order to be a biohacker or to live a long time. And that's why when we were talking about guys like Peter Attia, who are anti-longevity, like all you can do is take statins, exercise, and make sure you get all your vaccines, which are in his book. And that's going to extend your life as much as you can, because you can't. But at least then you won't be in a hospital at the end of your life. I don't know. You know anyone who spent their entire life lifting heavy or running marathons?
No.
Well, I do. I know lots of them.
Yeah.
So show me a 55-year-old who's been lifting for 25 or 30 years, 3, 4, 5 times a week. They all need new shoulders and new hips and hernias.
Yeah. And
right?
joints.
And And then if you look at the long distance athletes, what do you have? You have new hips, new knees, right? Yeah. It always happens. So I am a huge proponent of exercise. And what exercise means is the dose and type of exercise that causes the change in your body you want, right? That's it.
That's
right?
it.
Going for a walk is not exercise, right? It is entirely possible to say, I'm going to run for 10 miles a day, right? It's just not going to end well for you. It never does, right? And what you do want to be able to say, though, is I want to have the VO2 max so that I can go for a 10-mile hike with a backpack and I can feel great, but I'm only going to run if I'm doing sprints or if something's chasing me, or maybe I'm chasing something I'm going to eat. Because the evidence is in. Endurance exercise is just not that good for you. And I say this, when I was a teenager and a young adult, I had a mountain bike and a road bike. I rode a Cannondale. I rode a Cannondale aluminum bike. I remember I was so excited when I got that thing. And I would ride like 25, 30 miles a day because I knew I would just lose weight. And when that didn't work, that's when I did 702 hours in the gym. And that didn't work. Like, maybe I'm just going to do what works instead of continuing to do something that doesn't work. And most people listening, if they're not people who've learned the lessons of biohacking, they're sitting here going, why am I so fat? In fact, I had 2 guys here at my house for dinner the other night. They're both mid to late 50s. They both have big shoulders. They've both been lifting for 25 years. They both need shoulder surgery. And they looked at each other and they had just connected. They don't work out together or anything like that. And I said, we've never worked out this much to stay this fat.
Yeah.
So
wow.
If it's not working, maybe you should change something. And
you should change. Yeah. Like self-awareness. It starts from there. But tell me, Dave, how'd you get your cardio in 20 minutes a week?
Well, we have this belief that the amount of time that you're doing cardio is how you get benefits. In fact, the way our brains are wired is there's about, I'm going to say at least 25 major shortcuts to making a decision. And your brain will automatically, without your permission, it's going to choose the lowest energy way to get a good enough solution. And when you have tons of energy and tons of time, you could really sit and ponder something, and you could make a spreadsheet, you could take notes, you could draw a mind map, you could meditate on something. And maybe that's a lot of time and energy. So the body doesn't want you to do that because it's a waste of energy from its perspective. And you might make a different decision. But one of the easiest ways that we live our lives without knowing it is this basic rule that takes the least amount of electricity to make a decision. If something is good, more is better. If something is bad, none is the correct amount. So think of something like cortisol. It's the bad stress hormone, right?
That's what they say. Yeah.
Well, if your cortisol levels are too low, it is more dangerous than high cortisol. So low cortisol kills you more than high cortisol. So maybe having the right dose is the key. So with exercise, our belief, because it's an easy belief to form, is that the amount of exercise you do determines how much results you get. Pretty straightforward, right? Yeah. Lift more often, get more results. Yeah. Well, when you look at the data, it is not true. My most recent book called Smarter, Not Harder. Yeah, I go through something called slope of the curve biology. And this is a new principle, and it applies in most situations biologically. And it says this: the amount of work that you do is not very relevant. It's how quickly do you turn on the work and how quickly do you return to baseline? Yeah. And right now there's 3 studies supporting what I do for cardio, which is what we have at Upgrade Labs. It's called the AI bike. And with this technology, you do 5 minutes 3 times a week. And during that 5 minutes, 40 seconds is hard. You never break a sweat. Okay. Right? It's a really hard 40 seconds. Yeah. What's going on here is I'm exhausting my muscles, my glycogen, taking myself right to the edge in 20 seconds. So I'm pedaling almost painfully slow. And then all of a sudden it's impossible to pedal. And you're like, oh, do you just really have to do it? Well, you do that. And then, and this is the trick, the AI system guides you through deep breathing exercises to quickly return back to baseline. Right. You do that twice. If you do that 3 times, you get worse results than doing it twice. So intuitively, I would say I should do 10 of these because these are good. But the data shows that 2 is the right number. And why would that work? It's because the body has its own intelligence, its own compute processors that are not you. Your cells make their own decisions. They have a little consciousness in them. In fact, they have a distributed consciousness that I call the meat operating system, because your body's made out of meat. Your meat runs itself. You and I are not right now calculating which sphincter in our digestive system needs to open right now. No. Thank God, because I'd be spending a lot of time going, I don't know, one of my blood vessels needs maintenance, right? We couldn't do that because our brains aren't set up for that. So it does vast amounts of data processing and vast amounts of environmental signal analysis, and it only shows me a tiny little bit of what's left over. And what the body's trying to determine is, am I being hunted, right? And if so, all of your systems turn on that say survive. And that means changes in blood sugar, heart rate, respiration, sweating, right? And when it does that, it doesn't know that you're on a stupid treadmill. It just knows that there's a reason that you're running. And the reason biologically would be you're being chased, because why would you run if you didn't have a good reason? Right? And that's okay. We're designed to handle that. But when we're done being chased, if there's no more predators, then the body says, oh, now I have enough minerals, I have enough animal protein, and I have enough safety, which means not running. And when you have those things, it'll transform radically and dramatically. Now, here's the numbers. If you were to go, say, to a spin class and do an hour of cardio 5 days a week, you're a good person if you sweat that much, right? You've got the lady in the front sweating all over the place, shaming you if you don't stand up and pedal when everyone else does. So at the end, you're like, man, I feel really good. I got all these endorphins. I got blood flow. I'm drenched in sweat. Therefore, I'm a good person. Well, yeah, maybe. But what happened there is you told your body for an entire hour, something was chasing me and I didn't get a break. So the body says, now I'm in a stressed mode. And the data is 5 days a week for 2 months straight, you're going to improve your VO2 max by 2%.
2%, yeah.
If you do the AI bike at Upgrade Labs in 15 minutes a week, you'll improve by 12%. So 6 times better results in 15 minutes versus 5 hours. Yeah. That's kind of a big difference.
That is a big difference. Do you think that we always need to have those shortcuts, or in a way or the other, if we find the way that our body works internally, those are not called shortcut anymore, but optimization. And this is what you're trying to do, actually.
I don't believe in optimization.
No?
Optimization is for cavemen.
That's a good one.
And here's why. I have limited resources. I do not know how to make more resources. Since I have limited resources, I will optimize them. What optimization really means is it means making trade-offs in a limited world. I don't live in a limited world. I live in a world where I have more control over my biology than at any time in recorded history. And I have more control over the environment around me. Right. So my resources aren't limited. My capabilities aren't limited, and the limits that I think are real, it just means we haven't learned how to overcome them yet. So optimization means, well, you're limited, so let's make 20 of these and 30 of these, and I only have a total of 50. I'm like, no, I'm a biohacker. I'm going to make 100 units, and then I'll allocate them. And if that's not enough, I'll make more, right? So this is a very big thing. The optimization mindset is the same mindset that makes you say, like Peter Attia, oh, well, we're never really going to extend human lifespan. So all you can do is optimize the time you have by spending 2 hours a day in the gym and taking your statins. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. We are extending human lifespan by decades right now.
I agree.
I did gene therapy a little while ago. One injection for the average person reduces your biological age by 9 years. And that's the first of 10 different technologies or 10 different targets for aging that I'm working with that company on. Right. The company is called MiniCircle. It's daveasprey.com/gene therapy. Has all the notes on what I did there. But is that accessible to spend $25,000 for most people? Not right now. mobile phones in 1990, the only people who had them were like Hollywood executives, and the whole trunk of their car was the phone, and they spent 50 grand on the phone and $20 a minute to, hold this giant thing up against their head. Right. And you can buy a mobile phone for $1 a month in Africa. So when short-sighted people say we're not going to extend human life, they aren't paying attention. We are already extending human life.
We are already, I agree on that. But, on that feeling, for now, we are extending life to the rich people only. And maybe one day it's going to be mainstream and get accessible to others. But this is like the big thing against longevity and biohacking. Every time we speak about biohacking, people come back to us and say, well, it's only for rich people.
Well, the people who say that probably aren't paying attention to what biohacking actually is. When I wrote my longevity book, for every one of the principles in the book, there's step 1, don't die. And there's 4 things that are likely to kill you. I call them the 4 killers. Other people who came out with books after that and call them the 4 horsemen or something like that, which I thought about using. But the 4 killers are diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, and Alzheimer's. And if you don't get one of those, you're very likely to live longer. And certainly you're going to live better, right? So what are the things that you can do that don't cost anything to avoid those? Well, it turns out for everything, there's also 7 big systems you maintain to live a long time. Well, every one of those in my book has, here's what you can do for free now that you know what's important. Here's what you can do for relatively affordable. Maybe it's, $200 device, or it's a $50 supplement or something. And then here's what the crazy billionaires do. And because it's my job and my passion and my life, I go do all the stuff that crazy billionaires do. I've had more stem cells at this point than probably anyone else on the planet. If not, I've got to be up there. And then I've had my bone marrow extracted twice, my fat extracted 3 times, and I've had my own stem cells injected in every joint in my body, starting at the toes all the way up to the top of the head. Twice. I've had my natural killer cells taken out, extracted, concentrated, culture expanded, and re-injected to give me a younger immune system. I mean, it's crazy what you can do these days. Is that something most people are going to do? No. Does it demonstrate that manipulating stem cells is something you can do and that it affects things? It does. And when you come into N Upgrade Labs pretty soon, we will have a product you can take orally that releases stem cells in amounts equal to intravenous therapy.
Stemregen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I love that product. Yeah, Christian is doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, Stemregen is an amazing product, and it's part of the protocol stacks that we have for longevity or for rapid recovery at Upgrade Labs. Does that mean I'm not going to do stem cells anymore? No, we'll just do gene-edited stem cells and stem cells with special powers. But would I inject umbilical cells from random people into my body for huge expense? It's crazy to do that.
It's crazy, yeah.
You can just turn on your own, right? Yeah. And so we're living in the future right now. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's only for rich people. I'm like, based on what evidence is that only for rich people? Because just read any of my books. They're always, here's why this thing matters. Here's the free thing. You want to be a biohacker on 0 budget? Well, you're going to have to black out your bedroom so you sleep in total darkness. How much does that cost? Well, if you have no money, take the aluminum foil from whatever food you eat and tape it in your windows, right? But most people are going to do a little bit more than that. So you're going to buy $20 blackout curtains online. And why would you do that? Well, there's a study from Japan where the amount of light that comes around your curtains in the average city increases depression by 69% in a study of 800 people. So does this tell us that maybe you should upgrade your curtains?
To get rid of depression? Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? This is not an expensive biohack. What's going on here is people don't know how to get a good night's sleep. We used to always do it because you slept in a cave or in a tree or wherever. Yeah. So it was just built into your environment. Now, the definition of biohacking, when I wrote it, it's change the environment around you and inside of you so you have full control over your own biology.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Many people forget the curtains, but they forget also to look at the sunlight in the morning.
Yes.
Which is a free biohack as well.
It's completely free. And I do that every morning. I go outside. In fact, one of the reasons I moved to Austin from from Canada is that it was just too dark in Canada. You can't look at the sun when there's no sun, right? It's a problem.
Yeah. Tell me, 10th anniversary coming up. This is big. This is cool.
It is kind of cool, but really it's our 13th anniversary.
In a way or the other, it's true. It could be the 20th anniversry as well.
We did 2 conferences during the pandemic that just didn't quite count. I would say. So that was the problem. Was we just didn't count those, but we probably should have. So it's the 10th annual, and the first conference when I started this back in would have been 2012, if memory serves, was 100 people at a bar in San Francisco. And I did it at a bar because, well, the bars are empty during the day. And since they're empty during the day, we could get the bar for almost free. And it was, 100 people who were following my work and said, I want to go deep on this. And we had a great time. And then the next year we went to the Pasadena Convention Center, and it became a very large conference. The Biohacking Conference this year is in Dallas. It's May 30th, 31st, June 1st. And you go to biohackingconference.com. We'll have way more than 100 vendors and some massive speakers and 3,400 people in a community of biohackers where, people have met their spouses there. People started businesses there, and it's changed the world. And I mean, you have your magazine, so you've probably seen market size data. When I raise funding for Upgrade Labs, I went through one set of research analysts says that the size of the market is $10 billion. And another one says it's a $63 billion industry.
Yeah. That's the data I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started a $63 billion industry at the Biohacking Conference. So the 10th annual thing, like, look at that. I don't sell $63 billion a year worth of stuff, but have I enabled a new language, a new way of thinking about how we show up in the world with biohacking? Heck yeah. And it's awesome because it made people so mad when I started this. Like, how dare you talk about upgrading yourself and hacking yourself? Who do you think you are? And my answer was, well, I'm an unlicensed biohacker, so you can't take away my medical license because I don't have one. And when I've had the honor of lecturing at the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine in front of 3,000 real doctors, that's how I opened. I'm like, guys, I'm not a doctor, so I'm honored to be here, but here's what it means. It means you can't take away my livelihood, and no insurance company controls what I do. It means I'm just going to say this works. And if you don't believe me, look at your numbers.
Yeah.
And the number of physicians who listen to my show or have my books in their office, or even my products now. I've got physicians now saying, hey, can I carry Danger Coffee, my new coffee brand, by the way, I've got nothing to do with Bulletproof anymore. It's been bought by an investment bank and all that stuff. So I'm looking at this going, this is what healers who are doctors have always wanted. It's the ability to tell their patients what to do so that they only come into the doctor when they really need to. And the rest of the time,
really need to.
They're happy and healthy. And why do doctors want that? Someone who's got a kind of skeptical, limited mindset would say, well, doctors want to maximize patient volume. No, that's pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies want to do that. What healers want to do is they want to see you one time and wave a wand and you're super healthy for the rest of your life. Because there's so many people who need this, and that's what we're building with biohacking. So then you go to the doctor when you have a real specific issue and you know what it is because you're taking care of yourself and your data told you it was time to go.
Yeah. And Dave, in India already, the insurance companies are giving bonuses to people that are doing biohacking and reversing the aging. So sooner or later, we're going to see the same thing happening in America and all across the world. So biohacking helps saving money to those companies as well. One question for you is, many people over 60, 65, they would love to live longer, better, and be biohackers, but they're just scared about the word biohacking. What can we do to change that?
Well,
or should we do something?
I don't know. The number of biohackers over 60 who come into Upgrade Labs locations, there's a lot of them. It's actually the most empowering, freeing thing. Because if you're from that generation, you sort of put doctors up there with priests, right? They have their white lab coat and what they say is this. But anyone who's over 60, unless they've become a biohacker, you look down and you probably can't see your feet. You put on weight. And the things that used to work, like exercise, It doesn't work anymore. Most people, when they hit about 50, they just stop responding to exercise. So what is a well-intentioned person with willpower going to do? Well, let me work out more because working out used to work. They're not going to know. It's because your testosterone production turned off. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what you do in the gym. If your body doesn't have the things it needs, and testosterone's a downstream thing. What I'm finding when I work with anyone, whether they're 20 or whether they're 70, is we have two things that we're all lacking. And one of them is vitamin DAKE. That's vitamin D-A-K-E. You can go to vitamindake.com where I put out something that costs like $22 a month to take the normal dose of it. It's an affordable mix of all the fat-soluble vitamins that you need. And we're all deficient in these things because they aren't in our food the way they used to be, and we don't get enough sunshine. So when you take those direct minerals to tell them where to go in the body. And on that same vitamindake.com website, you'll find Minerals 101, which is a broad spectrum macro mineral supplement. So what happens if you don't have enough zinc or copper or manganese or all the other little things that you probably can't even spell anymore? Well, what happens is you go to the gym and you go to curl something and you did the work and your body said, I want to respond to this. I just can't respond to this because it's not working. Right. And so that's why minerals are so important. And so for older people, you do that. And there will always be some people who are too timid to take control of their own biology. For those guys, here's what you do. You're going to get the app that I'll be releasing soon, and it's just going to tell you what to do. And you can do it at home. And you can call yourself a biohacker, or you can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, but you still get to do you.
You still get to do the job for sure. It doesn't come with the magic pill that fixes the problem. That is like so true. What about we're going to close on that, but what about the ethical and philosophical approach of extending life? You put on your website 180 years. I love it. You said we're going to double.
Yeah. So here's why that number is real. Our current best is 120 years old.
Correct. Yeah.
So think about 120 years ago. You and I weren't around, but if you look at history, World War I, they still fought it with horses. Okay. The airplane was just invented. Oh, and by the way, 1 year before the Wright brothers flew the first airplane, J.P. Morgan's banker, who was a big industrialist, stood up and said, "There is no way man will ever fly."
Yeah, that's true.
And I think he was reincarnated as Peter Attia, as far as I can tell. So what's happening here is, no, we are doing this right now, and you can be a part of this, right? It's just not that hard. So 180, why is that a real number? Well, if someone can make it to 120, they couldn't spell DNA because it hadn't been invented yet. Well, it had been invented. We just didn't know it was there.
Yeah.
We didn't understand mitochondria. We didn't understand the 7 pillars of aging that I wrote my superhuman book about. We didn't understand neuroplasticity, that your brain could change and recover over time. We didn't know neurotransmitters. We didn't have antibiotics. We didn't have clean water. Right? All these innovations, and much less the ability to, for a few $100s, to track your sleep and your exercise. So you live in a world of abundance. You can control almost everything in the environment around you, and you get whatever data you want for tiny fractions of what it would have cost 20 or much less 100 years ago. So given all those advantages, and given what I know is coming because I work with these companies and I have for 20 plus years, you think we can't do 50% better than our current best in the next 100 years? Here's something else. Every 72 days, the amount of knowledge we have about biology doubles.
Because of AI?
Because of the amount of research being done, because of AI, and because of our ability to have low-cost sensors that just, oh, wow, what happens if you have 10 million people wearing a fitness tracker? Or my 40 Years of Zen company, which is a neuroscience company, we have amazing brain data, and we're rolling out our brain training neurofeedback stuff at Upgrade Labs. So people can come in and get a brain upgrade, but we can see what their brains are doing. And we can say, here's how you're doing compared to everyone else. So with all of these things happening, the only way anyone can stay on top of it is to use AI. If we didn't have AI, if the amount of knowledge doubles, no doctor on the planet can read every new paper that comes out every day. You just can't stay awake that long, even if you're a speed reader. Right? So we now have the tools to just tell you what to do. And that's my whole mission at Upgrade Labs. I'll tell you what to do and come into a location and we'll help you do the stuff that's most effective per minute. And when you do that, you don't have to go to the gym 7 hours a week.
What
plus
do you do
drive
for
time,
the rest
plus
of
showers.
What do you do with the rest of the time? What's your suggestion?
Well, it's funny. So I've written 8 books. And the easiest thing you can do to live a very long time and extend your life is have a healthy mother and grandmother, right? Mm-hmm. So the quality of the nutrition and the stress environment before you were conceived and in the womb, that's most important. Of course, you can't change anything for yourself, but you can change that for your kids. So that was my first book because that's where the most leverage is. And then, well, what do you do with your food? That was the Bulletproof Diet. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, how do you make your brain work better? That was my Headstrong book. And that's a New York Times Science best-selling book on mitochondria in the brain with step-by-step instructions to making your brain work. I had such crippling brain fog when I had chronic fatigue. I had to do this. And from there, I was like, okay, now I got my brain back. I got my energy back and I feel really good all the time. What am I going to do with my life? So I asked 400 people on my podcast, including Nobel Prize winners, what's your advice? And then I ran through a statistical analysis to figure out what are the about 50 things that will make a difference in your life. So now you know your purpose. Now you know what you're going to do. That book is called Game Changers. It's my highest number of stars of any of my books. People read it like, this changed my life. Because it was like reading 100 personal development books. Yeah. And from there, I wrote Superhuman. Okay. Now that I have my energy back, I have the body I want, I'm going to live twice as long. Let's do that. Right. And after that, it's like, okay, what do we do next? I had to write a book on fasting because people were doing it wrong. The first big book on fasting was the Bulletproof Diet. I introduced intermittent fasting. Millions of people have lost millions of pounds. True. Right. But then people do that same thing. If something is good, more is better. Over fasting is a problem. So I wrote about the psychology of fasting the right amount for you today. And it's different for every person, right? So that was kind of to correct a societal thing. And then from there, I've moved on to Smarter, Not Harder, which is, could we stop spending time not getting results in the gym? And can we start getting massive results from the exercise we do? Because exercise is good for you when you do it the right way. And when you do it the wrong way, it kind of wastes time, even though it feels good some of the time. I've had plenty of exercise-related injuries. And I've spent a lot of time in the gym that didn't give me great results. I'm getting better results now than I've ever had.
And 20 minutes a week.
Yeah. And, I'm probably going to crank it up to an hour a week here just to see what happens. But much more than that probably won't be effective because I have access to Upgrade Labs technologies. If I didn't have that, it would probably be 2 hours a week would be all that it would take. And the number of times I've sat down with women anywhere from mid-20s up to in their 60s. And they're saying, I go to the gym every day and I'm eating salads and all this and I can't lose this weight. And I'm so tired all the time. Yeah. I'm like, well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to eat more. You're going to add some steak and you're going to cut your exercise time in half and you're going to give yourself a recovery period. And they come back 2 weeks later, like, I'm sleeping well. My hormones are better. My skin is better. I'm losing weight. How is this possible that less exercise and more recovery equals better results? Because that's how our bodies work.
Yeah. You know what, Dave? It's interesting because I've been studying the past 5 years about the oxidative stress that could create extreme biohacking. And some people that are going all the way to extreme, they actually don't reduce that much their biological age as you could reduce it if you were going just a bit slower. Like you said, a bit less, it's better than too much. And we've seen so many people obsessed by biohacking. Like, I need to wake up early in the morning to put my ass on the sun, to go to do a cold plunge, to do this, and this. And they just forget one important thing, living.
The ultimate goal is to live a happy life that's full of energy and so much energy that you can evolve as a human being. There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is an old psychological principle that says, all humans need, safety and care and community. And there's a stack of things. Maslow died before his time and unexpectedly in his, I think, early 60s. And Scott Barry Kaufman came on my podcast, which is called The Human Upgrade. And he said, well, Dave, I went around the world and I read all of Maslow's unpublished papers. And the final step on the hierarchy of needs, according to Maslow, was transcendence. And if you become a biohacker and you turn your energy back on and you have the energy of a young person, no matter what your age is, even if you have the wisdom of decades and the energy of youth, it frees up so much energy and power in you that you will evolve as a human being. And you have enough energy left over at the end of the day for a gratitude practice, to forgive all of the people who have offended you, and to actually become a better human being who is kind but not nice. You actually become very dangerous. And that's why Danger Coffee is my new brand, because there's two kinds of safety in the world. In one kind of safety, you are so tired, you're so depleted from eating soybeans and crickets and living in a little cubicle.
You never miss one target.
No. Well, crickets are meat. I mean, aren't they? I wouldn't say. But you're just worn down, you're beat down, and you can never make your ends meet. You're just always struggling. Right? You'll be peaceful because you're controlled. Or you go the biohacking path and you become so energetic that you know you can handle whatever life brings your way. And that makes you dangerous because who knows what you might do? But it's the kind of danger that creates freedom and happiness and joy. It's the kind of freedom that says, I'm going to do the right thing no matter what, because I can. And I'm going to choose to be kind, and I'm going to choose to be peaceful, right? And that's the only future that I will allow to happen for our species. Because if we go down the dark path of everyone limited and controlled and rationed, it takes all the joy out of life. And what's the point of extending your life if you feel like you're in prison every day and you can never, ever have a moment of peace? So that's not going to happen. And I'm not alone there. There are billions of people who are aligned with what I'm saying around who knows what you might do. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to take care of myself. And I'm going to choose to be kind to my neighbors and to people I don't know because I have so much energy, I can be kind. And I know because I lived this in my 20s, when you're just out of energy, your mitochondria don't work, and you barely have enough energy to make it through the day, of course you're going to snap at your kids. Of course you're going to flip someone off in traffic, right? I used to say in my 20s, my most developed muscle was actually the middle finger muscles. Right? I mean, I was angry because when you're low energy and you just can't control your emotions because you don't have enough electricity to do it. Yeah. That's why I do what I do. Because if you want to evolve as a human being, you can, but evolution takes energy. And we're at a point in society now where we know how to turn our energy back on. And when some, douchebag running a big cereal company tells you to eat sugar cereal for dinner to save money, you should look at that and laugh. You don't have to take offense, because being offended means you're programmable. You just look at that and just laugh. Just be like, what world does that guy live in? And I wonder if his kids eat his products. And they don't. They don't.
Yeah. I was, before you jumped in, Ashley and I were talking, and I said, it takes chaos to bring harmony. This is what you're doing.
It's funny. In my career in technology in Silicon Valley, the first product ever sold over the internet was a product I made. This is before the web browser had been created and the word e-commerce didn't exist. I was just trying to pay for my college tuition. And it was actually this, that's a caffeine molecule on my arm. There was a t-shirt that had that molecule. And it said caffeine, my drug of choice, because that was the only way I ever got an A in calculus, was the semester I discovered coffee. So was e-commerce disruptive to the planet? Yeah. Did I invent e-commerce? I think there were a lot of us working on entrepreneurship back then. Was I the first guy who ever was like, I could do this out of my dorm room? Yeah. So I spot disruption. My whole career has been, how do we take the old stupid way of doing things and do something so much better and so different that one day we all wake up and say, why did we used to do it that way? But it's an evolutionary approach to change. And right now, everyone who hears this or everyone who reads an article about this, and you realize you have the tools to create the energy that it takes to be fully in charge of your life. That is a societal change, and it is one that is long overdue. And it is what will create human flourishing and human kindness. All the other paths create suffering, and they make mean people. And I don't want my kids to grow up in that world. And since I'm going to be around and along with them for the next 100+ years, I want to live in that world too. And so if you're listening to this, understand, unless a car hits you or you just don't take care of yourself, it is inevitable that you're going to live decades longer than you think. Now, you could say, what evidence do you have for this? You wouldn't know this unless you're a longevity nerd like me. But right around 1990, and by the way, I'll date myself, that was the year I graduated from high school. There was a problem. You were considered elderly when you were between 55 and 60 years old. And people were getting angry. They're saying, excuse me, I'm not done yet. And the measure that we used back then to determine whether you were elderly was grip strength. And to this day, how hard you can squeeze something is a great rough estimate of how old you are. So if you're young and you have a weak grip, you have something wrong with you. And if you're older and you have a weak grip, you have something wrong with you. You're not aging well.
Yep.
So they discovered that grip strength in people in their 50s and early 60s was maintaining. It was higher. So they changed the definition of elderly. That was just in 1990, right? That was whatever that is. 30 years ago. We already had a shift in what it means to be old. Yeah. Most people don't know that. So it's happening now. It's just happening much more rapidly because of AI, because of biohacking. And the whole point of biohacking is the tools that make old people young are the tools that make young people strong. So let's all use the tools, and then our young people won't age very much. And one of the other things that's happening, I mentioned earlier, having a healthy mother was a great longevity strategy, right?
Yeah.
Well, when I was 30 years old, this is like 20 years ago, my friends and I would walk around saying, I sure hope that I don't get someone pregnant, or the women would say, I hope I don't get pregnant unless I want to. My 30-year-old friends today are saying, I hope I can get pregnant, because human fertility is plummeting because we're not taking care of our world and we're not taking care of ourselves. Biohacking will restore your fertility. And what's my evidence for that? Well, the mother of my children was infertile when I met her. And through biohacking, changing diet, changing environmental variables, no IVF, no medications required, we had one kid at 39 and one at 42, and they're vibrantly healthy teenagers now. You can do that too through biohacking. You get to control your biology. You can turn it all back on. You can reverse the clock. But most of all, wherever the clock is set, can you have more energy today than you ever thought was possible? Because if you can do that, that energy is going to go into more improvements of your life. Maybe your career shifts. Maybe your relationships with your kids or your parents change, or your spouse. All those things are possible. They just are so hard when you have so little energy. How are you going to invest it in any of those things? So get your energy back through biohacking, and then you'll become younger. And then you have more energy and you can reinvest that. It's like compounding returns. And that's been my path. And I've never had more energy, never had a better functioning brain, and never had a better sex life than I do now. It's all better than in my 20s. And I'm not the only one who can do this.
We live in a beautiful world, and you're making this world even more beautiful because it's all positivity. I love it, Dave. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being my guest here. Thank you for the interview in Biohackers magazine. We're proud to support you on this. We are so happy to be part of it. And can I say happy anniversary for the 10th or the 13th?
Sure. Either one. I appreciate it. And one thing worth noting, just as we wind down the show, I did not trademark the word biohacking, and I could have, but I wanted it to be a community movement. I am the leader of the biohacking movement, but I am not the only biohacker by a long shot. And there are other emerging leaders, right? And that's why, Biohacker magazine can be a thing. It entered the English language in 2018 as a new word. Yeah. And my name's in Webster's dictionary now online, which is remarkable. But the reason that it's happened is not because of me, even though I started it. It's because of us. It's because it's a global movement with biohackers in every country. So thanks for being part of the movement.
Thank you. I'm honored. Truly appreciate it, Dave. I love what you do. Been a big fan. I've been a biohacker for 20 years too. And that's the way it is. I believe I'm like you on that. I truly believe that we can live up to 100 and I would say 50 in my guess today because of the pace of life. But I'll bet on 180.
I'm betting on some tech innovations. They're coming.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. It was awesome. We're going to put everything on videos, on paper, and the cover. You're going to be on the cover of the magazine for the conference. So it's going to be a cool stuff. And so look forward to seeing you there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Talk to you soon. See you in a month or so. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Bye, guys.